definition of a hippie is probably different than what a hippie actually is. Over the past couple weeks, I've done extensive research on the hippie movement, and I can properly inform people on what it actually entails. Did you know that actually wearing like rock star t-shirts and doing drugs and casual sex is actually all started from the hippie movement? All that stuff that we do in society today started from the hippie movement. But when the hippie movement first started, it was rejected by society. The hippie movement changed American culture, spearheaded positive change for minority groups, and also taught people to embrace themselves for who they really were. In a moment, I'm going to be discussing all the things I just mentioned. But most importantly, it is good to know that the hippies changed American culture and cultivated change for minority groups and people who wanted to accept themselves. To start this off, the hippies changed American culture as we know it. When you think of proper media today and the things that we wear and what we partake in, most of this is all because of, not all because of what the hippies have done, but the hippies have had a huge influence. Nowadays, you'll see people walking around with a Purple Rain t-shirt or a Nirvana t-shirt or listening to hard rock, stuff like that. A lot of that was rejected in mainstream society back in the 1960s and 70s when the hippie movement first started. But nowadays, that's a big part of American culture, and that's a big part of being yourself. The hippies were mocked during this time, and frequently ridiculed just because of the things that they did that were unpopular to other people. Things like creating Earth Day and other popular pro-Earth movements, those were also rejected by society near the start of the hippie movement. According to Ned Cogswell, in an article in the Culture Trip magazine published in 2016, today the term hippie is often used as a derogatory term and continues to be a complicated term that is often used to isolate various left-leaning parties or groups. This is simply not true because hippies are actually American culture today. Moving on, the hippie movement helped create a positive change in minority groups around the globe, such as African Americans, or gay and lesbians, or transgender, you name it really. One of the most popular things that the hippies have done since the start of the movement is they've helped legalize gay marriage. This was more recent under the presidency of Barack Obama, but this was also, this idea of gay marriage came about during the 1960s and 70s when the hippie movement was popular. Hippies also supported single parenthood, which was often rejected when the movement first started, and they also accepted anyone, just regardless of sexuality, race, ethnicity, really you name it. It didn't matter to them. They just wanted to accept people and have people who loved themselves for who they were. According to an encyclopedia article on the 60s counterculture, hippies called for the extension of equal rights and to end discrimination based on race, ethnicity, and gender, which, as we know, in the 60s, in the 70s, the Civil Rights Act was created and other equality acts that eliminated racism in the United States. And then my final point, the hippie movement encouraged people to embrace who they truly are. As we can see in this picture right here, these people all have their hair long and they're holding signs that say, "Love, not war." This has multiple meanings to it, but one of the more prevalent meanings is just loving yourself for who you are. This was often in mainstream society, people were expected to hold up a certain standard to how society wanted them to look. Hippies often participated in things such as spiritual searches, which provided for one's true value and just define what they really valued in life. And then they also supported any sexuality, which in the 1960s was not popular. According to W.J. Rohrbaugh in the article, Hippies Won the Culture War, at the heart, the counterculture was about three things: a search for authenticity, an insistence upon individualism, and a desire for community. To wrap it all up, hippies changed the American culture. They created positive change for minority groups, and they provided support for people looking to find their true self. I just think it's good to be thankful for this movement, especially for the culture that we have nowadays, and just for everyone that can, now we can all accept everyone for who they are. I encourage you to read more articles on the History Network and encyclopedias to really get a good idea of what the hippie movement was all about.